We do continue along. It is the Three Dog Thursday Roundtable on YouTube. Come find what we look like via the YouTube Roundtable show. Just search for Three Dog Thursday. If you're only hearing us again on the audio podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, however you found us, come see what we look like. I am merely the somewhat competent ringleader of the roundtable. Let's welcome in special guest. First up, he's smiling ear to ear, but I do not see him wearing anything Michigan State, despite being in East Lansing on the day after, at the time that we're taping, Michigan State got a huge win over Illinois. What is up, DeShaun Tate, Mr. Tate's Take Hoops? Because your Sparties are looking good, but you got no Michigan State stuff up right now. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on and sharing this space with me. Shh, don't say anything about Michigan State winning too loud, or they're going to probably find a way to dump it somehow. But I figure like this: listen, you wear Michigan State every day, all season long. They play like crap. You don't wear any Michigan State, they win games. So I'm gonna go with this look for now.
Superstition, that is good. And we should point out to the audience that I am superstitiously now putting on the Tampa Bay Rays hat for the defending American League champions, which are back in spring training to bring them luck. Currently over my shoulder, come find us on the YouTube page, the two-time Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers hats from both 2002 and from the 2020 season. And that helps me segue into a longtime radio friend here in the Tampa Bay area, Steve Carney, who's been putting up with me on and off the air for the better part of about 15 years. Brother Carney, a jack of all trades, does a great job with a lot of different stuff. Including, we're going to talk some Tampa Bay Rays with him, but you were part of our Tampa Bay radio broadcast for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers radio network all the way through a lot of losing and a lot of losing years, and now to a Super Bowl, Steve Carney. So I know we've got you here to talk a lot of baseball, but we got to be loving that the Bucs are the champs as well. Welcome, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, you think about it, I did 9 or 10 seasons of Buccaneers football with you. We had one winning season prior to this year and 0 playoff appearances. And to go all the way through Super Bowl 55 in our home stadium and to destroy the Kansas City Chiefs as profoundly as what happened with that 31-9 victory and Tom Brady getting another Super Bowl title. And then all the celebration that went on afterwards, it was all worth it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, DeShaun, sorry, we have to keep poking our chest out. We're the epicenter of pro sports right now. Forget about Los Angeles with the Lakers and the Dodgers. We got a Stanley Cup, babe, and for the audience, we got a Rays World Series appearance, and now we got a Bucs Super Bowl win. It is Champa Bay, Champa Bay right now in and around where we are. All right, so speaking of championships, they will head to March, and the greatest event, I believe, DeShaun agrees, Steve might slightly disagree because he's a baseball guy, spring training, etc. The NCAA tournament is looming. It will be as unusual and wild as any tournament we've had that's upcoming. We had been debating whether the tournament might not have a Duke, might not have a Kentucky, and it still might not have a Kentucky, and it might not have a Michigan State. But right now, the Blue Bloods are coming alive, including, as I share the screen right here, someone's Michigan State Spartans on Tuesday night. We're showing this to the YouTube audience. Looked fantastic against fifth-ranked Illinois. Look at Tom Izzo with the mask off, wanting his guys to play better defense as we look at this on the YouTube roundtable. The Spartans came to life, DeShaun. You are there in East Lansing, seeing it firsthand as we speak. Why are they playing better, and what kind of hope are you giving them to make a run here to get into the NCAA tournament?
Well, their backs are up against the wall, and it's almost March, so you typically know what that means. It's almost Tom Izzo and Michigan State time, one of the programs that you hardly ever want to face around that time of the year. And I know that it's been obviously a lot different this year, but listen, I mean, the reality is that while they still have some point guard issues and still some front court contribution and production issues, they have some guys on the wing that's playing really good for them right now. Aaron Henry being one of them, Gabe Brown. They're finding a way to lock down a little bit better defensively. Maybe not fantastic or the old Michigan State way where they go and clean glass on the backboards, but certainly that they're playing better defense anyways. and finding a little bit more balance with some of the offense. Again, nothing great, nothing typical Michigan State, but just taking steps, even if they're baby steps, in the right direction. I think that's one of the bigger reasons why. And listen, they've got a huge slate in front of them. I mean, we just finished talking about the Illinois game. They've got Ohio State coming up on tomorrow in the next 24 hours. They're double dipping with Michigan in there somewhere. They've got 2 games on that schedule as well. So it's going to be interesting. If I'll tell you what, if Michigan State does not get into the NCAA tournament, much unlike other teams, it's not going to be because they didn't have their opportunities and chances.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt down the stretch of the season. And Duke is a team taking advantage of those opportunities because I believe they've won 4 games in a row since Jalen Johnson, arguably their best player, departed. Kentucky has come around. In fact, Steve Carney loves this. He's a pro wrestling brother from another mother like I am. DeShaun dips into this every once in a while. We'll show this on the screen. I saw this from someone else, so I had to share the screen. There it is, just like The Undertaker. The Blue Bloods, Duke, Kentucky, and Michigan State, right about time for March. That we're all about this, Steve Carney, right now. We got to have the better teams in the tournament. And even though all of them have been questionable, and Kentucky is still 4 games below 500 right now, although the NCAA selection committee says they will still consider teams with a losing record, it will be like The Undertaker maybe for Duke, Kentucky, and Michigan State, Stephen. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. And, I think that the tournament, it's going to benefit the more recognizable names are involved in it. I mean, as much as, we all love Gonzaga and Baylor and Florida State and even Virginia, the defending national champions, and we have to say that even though it was 2 years ago because there was no tournament last year, having Mike Krzyzewski, having John Calipari, and having Tom Izzo in the tournament is going to be tremendous. DeShaun, I've got a question for you when it comes to the tournament, though. Because Gonzaga and Baylor have been so amazing this year, I would say I will give you the choice. You can have Gonzaga and Baylor or the field. Which side are you taking?
Ooh, I'm taking the field, and one of the bigger reasons I believe is because I think we saw some deficiencies on last night against Iowa State from Baylor. I think that Gonzaga, while they do have the high octane and explosive offensive firepower, they have some hidden defensive deficiencies in their own right. And I think when they find a way to match up against some of these more athletic yet still experienced and disciplined teams, that later on in the tournament in a winner go home situation, I think that there's a chance that they might struggle. Plus, it probably helps that I have 66 other teams to choose from, which I guess always benefits a little bit too. So I definitely take the field on that one. It's crazy that you guys are even mentioning this about some of these blue blood programs, because I don't even want to know what it would even look like if we're talking about maybe potentially having a college football playoff without Alabama and Clemson, Ohio State and Oklahoma and Notre Dame and all these teams. It would look crazy, but we all know what runs this thing. I'm channeling my inner Johnny Manziel right now. It's all about the almighty dollar. And I will say this, TJ, I want to make sure I say this right here on your platform. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw either Michigan State and or Duke, maybe the NCAA may be trying to drive some of that revenue and have one of those teams, if not both of them, play in the first 4 somehow.
That has been kicked around, and Kentucky might be a candidate for that too, especially if they're 2 or 3 games below 500, depending on what happens. And so again, in the chronology of this, they are now going to play the first 4 games in Indianapolis, what's known as the first 4, all on one night, not 2 separate nights in Dayton, Ohio. They're going to play them in Indianapolis on Thursday night, and then they're going to start the tournament on Friday the next day and play 5 days in a row. So they're going to put the winners on Thursday night into the tournament on Saturday, right into it. And you're right, they may drum up interest, and there might be 2 of that group. I don't think all 3 of that group, but Duke maybe stands to be in better shape than Michigan State or Kentucky to not be in the first 4, but they very well might have Kentucky, Michigan State on the first night, on the Thursday night, first 4 night, before they play 5 straight days of the tournament, and we can't wait for all of that to unfold. All right, so you're hearing from DeShaun Tate, Mr. Tate's Take Hoops. Steve Carney, who's at Steve Carney, Carney on Twitter, also does a fantastic job covering baseball. And lo and behold, as I wear the Tampa Bay Rays hat, my man Steve Carney, as we share the screen, was out at Rays spring training, I should say south of where we are, about 2 hours. We're showing it to the YouTube audience. You were channeling your Jim Nance while we're channeling things. Hello, friends. Hello, old friends. Spring training and you just go together. This is what, your 11th, your 13th, your 27th year covering spring training. I can't keep track. But you were down there with the Rays in Port Charlotte, Florida, about 2 hours south of Tampa Bay. And there they are. Brett Phillips and Randy Arozarena from the Rays playoff run last year. Brandon Lau. There's the guys taking batting practice. Steve, what was this like to be in and around the Rays in spring training on Tuesday of this week as everything started to crank up with players reporting in the Grapefruit League in Florida?
It's been very different, TJ, because in years past, and even in 2020, when practices were going on, this was pre-pandemic, and we were allowed to stand on the fields with the players. We would, go back and forth. There's some good-natured ribbing between the guys that we knew and meeting some of the guys that we didn't know, and getting to make those relationships. We don't have that this year. They've had us cordoned off. There's been a minimum of 12 feet of social distancing between us and the players. They've got these ropes out. We had people talking about it. Kind of reminded them of Busch Gardens or Disney World or Disneyland, where you're inside the ropes waiting to get on the ride. And unfortunately, there's no ride at the end. It's just us standing there and watching these guys at a distance trying to take pictures. You saw some of the pictures that I was able to take there. Those are shots from 45, 50, 90, 150 feet away, trying to get shots of some of these guys as they're walking in. But it was nice to be out there. It was nice to be around these guys for the first time, because everything's been over Zoom for the better part of the last year, almost a full calendar year now that we've been doing nothing but Zoom. So to see these guys,
let me interject. So like a year ago, when the baseball season played, you weren't allowed even around them down on the field for batting practice, none of that. But at least here in spring training, socially distanced, it's a little different. You were allowed to be in the vicinity of them, just in a special section, not anywhere close to coming in contact because of the COVID-19 protocols and guidelines that baseball has. Is that accurate?
Yeah, last year we were cordoned off in the press box high above the field. We weren't allowed anywhere near the field. We weren't even allowed in the seating bowl. Never mind on the field with these guys. But to be at the same level as a lot of these guys and having them come over and saying hi to us was something that it's like you realize how much you take it for granted working in this business.
Yeah, it just to that point, DeShaun, and just indulging us here, the Three Dog Thursday audience as well. When I got right after the Super Bowl, and Steve again was the technical producer running the whole broadcast, and I don't know that you even know this part of the story, but when I got down near Levante David, Cameron Braid, and Leonard Fournette, three of the Buccaneer postgame guests, to be able to do interviews with a boom mic 10 feet away from them, that is the first time that I had any interaction individually with any players in the postgame show of the Super Bowl for the entire season. Levante David's face, Steve, lit up when he saw me, because that's the first time he had seen me and been around me in a year. Now, as we like to joke, DeShaun, and for the audience, whenever usually people see Steve Carney, they are wanting to run the other way and want to be 12 feet from him or 50 feet from him. And the same with me. We've got faces for radio. They don't want to be around us anyway, so we're good with social distancing. But it is just unusual trying to do your job. And DeShaun, just back to you real quick. It's going to be the same thing around these conference tournaments. It's going to be the same thing around the NCAA tournament, where reporters are not going to have access in and around the court or in and around the players. It's my understanding the closest that anybody might get is like 30 feet distanced in a press conference setting. You're not going to have any interaction like normal, DeShaun. We just have to get used to the new normal right now and take what we can get to play the games and play the tournaments, right? DeShaun, follow up on that, please.
30 feet or 30,000 feet. I'm just happy to be able to say that we can actually have some madness to put along with the month of March, and 25% of the attendance being able to attend the NCAA tournament, which I think is good because that's something I don't really think a lot of people really take into effect of the NCAA tournament. One of those teams are going on a run or something like that, and you're usually seeing everybody kind of standing up from the edge of their seats and under 2 minutes or 1 minute remaining, and you don't really have that, so it's going to seem weird. Also, even the band, I'm not sure where things stand with even the band even being able to have opportunities, because they make much of the NCAA tournament as well. Here's the part that I love about the NCAA tournament outside of Selection Sunday, though, TJ, with the outside of the fact that it does tend to bring everybody together, office pools, all shades of different people coming from different places and different walks of life, that there's all, and think about this, I thought about this the other night, there's always, when it comes to March Madness with the upsets and buzzer beaters and so forth, there's always that one game that makes you just completely crumble up your bracket. You throw it in the wastebasket. I'm done with this. I can't take it anymore. It's playing with my emotions and my heart. Little do you know, while you think that's the game, that's not even the one that really does it. It's the one coming after that one that's just going to make you now put it all in the shreds, light it up on fire, and watch it just like a regular fan.
And while yours is blown up, there are a bunch of other people celebrating that win, and then theirs is blown up in their bracket, and you might be succeeding for a little while, but the upsets, they're going to be coming in March for sure.
Misery doesn't love company any more than it does, like the way it does during the NCAA tournament.
And Tell me about it. Yes, and I say this all the time. The ones that are the less educated, the secretaries in the office that have no idea, those that don't pay attention and pick by the colors and by the mascots tend to do better. By and large, over the course of the 60, whatever it is, 67 games that'll be played, they tend to do better almost by flipping a coin than what we do.
I think this year, TJ, I think I'm gonna base mine off of the better vacation destination or something like that.
That might be good. Now, and in some cases, that would be like Florida teams, UCLA, depending on where it is. But
so you're saying Creighton's out in the first round?
Yeah, Creighton, Spokane, Washington for Gonzaga, not exactly vacation destination. And a good point, Steve. Omaha, Nebraska, probably not. Lansing, Michigan, depending on time of the year, probably not.
True.
Same thing. Syracuse, Utah State, no. But it's a good point. All right, couple of minutes left here on the Three Dog Thursday Roundtable. I want to plug a couple of more things. So first of all, Steve, you're writing about this on your brand new website, and I'm going to show the audience. Check out Steve's site for Tampa Bay Rays baseball. We're taking a look at it right now on the screen on the YouTube Roundtable. stpete9.com. There it is. Nice work, young man. St. Pete 9, very clever for the 9 players on a baseball field. stpete9.com has info now. If those, speaking of DeShaun saying vacation, if those are looking to come to Florida, and a lot of people by the tens of thousands, if not the hundreds of thousands, have been coming to Florida. If you're coming to try to see some of spring training baseball, Steve, real quick, the Rays released some spring training ticket info. Several other teams did, at least for Florida. I don't know what they're doing in Arizona, but enlighten us a little bit. If they're coming to Florida in and around any of this in March, for sure, they can go to a game, limited fan attendance, social distancing, right?
Yeah, and we learned this morning here on this Wednesday that the Rays have announced their tickets. They will go on sale Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Everything is going to be online. They're going to be available in pods of 2 and 4 with social distancing involved. Talking with Rays president Matt Silverman yesterday, there's not a exact number for capacity wise, but it looks like it's probably going to be somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 tickets that will be sold. They've got social distancing going on the berms as well, on the grassy areas along both the first base and the third base lines. So those will be available as well. Those, as I said, those tickets will go on sale Friday morning. Everything is going to be mobile. Everything is going to be online. Masks are going to be mandatory unless you're actively eating or drinking in your seats. But it's just going to be awesome to have fans back in the stands for Rays games. We didn't get that at all last year at Tropicana Field. In fact, the Rays didn't have fans at all until they got to the World Series against the Dodgers
Can I interject? It was absolutely bizarre that they made our beloved baseball team, and it is a Rays Love Fest right now on Three Dog Thursday.
That's right.
Go all the way out to an empty stadium in San Diego, California, and play the New York Yankees and the Houston Astros in San Diego, 3,000 miles away from Tampa Bay. It was crazy, but at least they did, as you mentioned, have some fans in Arlington, Texas. And so other teams around, whether it's the Yankees in Tampa, the teams down south of Tampa Bay, Red Sox, help me out here, Steve.
The Twins, the Orioles, Pirates, Phillies,
on the East Coast
Blue Jays.
of Florida, they're going to have what? The Nationals, the Mets, the Cardinals.
Astros.
Some of them are going to have fans at the different games for spring training. And then when the games begin, it's going to be up to each individual team, their city and county government, the health officials on whether they're allowing anybody there.
That's correct.
But at least we'll have some. It appears right now, Steve.
Yeah, it looks like most of the teams in Florida will have somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 fans for spring training, done mostly the same way at Marlins Park, where the Rays will open the season against Miami on April 1st. They're looking at having, I believe, Derek Jeter, their owner, mentioned a 20% capacity, which is about 7,200 fans. The Rays have said at Tropicana Field they'll have about 7,000 fans tickets available for the season, at least to start. And then as the vaccine rolls out and the numbers go down for COVID-19, they can look at revisiting, expanding capacity as long as the state and county governments deem it feasible for the fans to be in the ballparks, which will
interesting
be awesome.
Too, that we're showing the YouTube audience that the Toronto Blue Jays, who have trained in Dunedin, Florida, that is a St. Petersburg, Clearwater kind of nebulous area of Pinellas County, Dunedin, as we also nickname it. They've been training over in Pinellas County for 40, 50 years. They're actually not only
the beginning.
Right. So, since their inception right in the 70s. So they're actually going to begin the regular season and play in the spring training stadium, correct, Steve? We're showing it on the screen on the YouTube roundtable, at least for the beginning of the year in Toronto. And the real issue, again, is going back and forth across the Canadian border. That's why the Toronto Raptors have been playing in Tampa Bay right now. DeShaun is nodding along with that because teams can't go back and forth to Canada to play them. Them trying to go back to Canada and then come back to the United States is problematic. So, again, this is a wild time. None of the Canadian hockey teams are playing anybody other than themselves because they can't go back and forth in the NHL to the U.S. and back to Canada. So all the Canada teams are staying in Canada and only playing each other in the regular season, which is crazy. So, Steve, it's just interesting. Just one more time real quick. The Blue Jays are going to be here, too. Another major league team is going to be playing in their spring training stadium to start the year.
Yeah, and this is going to be a second straight year that the Blue Jays have not been able to do this because the federal government has deemed it that they cannot travel back and forth across the border. Right now in Canada, if you try and come into the country, it is a 14-day quarantine at a hotel at your own expense. So there's
good luck.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not allowing this to go back and forth. Last year, the Blue Jays played in Buffalo, which is their AAA affiliate, but there is going to be a AAA season this year, so they're not able to use their AAA stadium. So now they're coming to Dunedin, which is where their low A team will be playing this year. That team will play on one of their backfields, and the major league team will get an opportunity to play at TD Stadium in Dunedin. There will be limited fans available. That's going to be probably 1,500 fans all the way through until they decide to leave, because that stadium's capacity is only about 7,000. So they're looking at having about 1,500.
Good to know on all of that. And again, the Raptors, all I'm saying to the public, and DeShaun's going to nod along here, is if the Lightning and the Rays and the Buccaneers have won the title, watch out for the Raptors. I don't even know what's going to happen, but just watch out for the Raptors. It's Tampa Bay, baby, and it may rub off on the Blue Jays too, DeShaun.
I watched them beat the 76ers the other day at Amalie Arena because I do some work with the Raptors as well. And then last night, watched them get throttled at the beginning, but then come back. That was only a 6-point game at the end. And, for a team that's supposed to be the cream of the crop in the Eastern Division, that Philadelphia team, they can go ice cold at times. And there are times when it's like, oh my God, why are you not just feeding the ball to Joel Embiid all the time? And then all of a sudden it's like, where did these guys go? They're letting the Raptors back into this game. I'm very curious to see what the Raptors can do in an Eastern Conference playoffs that they're going to get into, even though they're probably going to end up finishing the year right around 500.
DeShaun Tate, the Tampa Bay could rub off on the Raptors. Give me a quick comment real quick before we get out of here.
Yeah, not only the Raptors, but hey, who knows? In a year like this, as much craziness as we've seen getting ready to approach all the madness that is the month of March, maybe Brian Gregory can get the Bulls in some kind of NCAA tournament consideration.
USF.
Don't hold your breath.
Don't hold your breath, but it's Tampa Bay. He's right. It may be. All right, let me plug for my guys here again as I share the screen one more time on the YouTube roundtable. We take a look at DeShaun Tate. Here's where you find him, Tate's Take Hoops, as we take a look there on the screen. TATESTAKEHOOPS, Tate's Take Hoops for everything. Tate's Take Hoops is a podcast wherever podcasts are found, also on Facebook and YouTube. And by the way, we plug away. DeShaun, you've got Clark Kellogg. There he is of CBS that you're going to be taping with and broadcasting that show and podcast on Wednesday. So as the audience is hearing us on Thursday, they can find, all things being equal, and you're able to get Clark on, they can find you and Clark Kellogg breaking down the month of March in the NCAA tournament on Tate's Take, the podcast and the show, right?
Absolutely. Yep. They can do that. And like you said, anywhere you find your favorite podcast, and make sure that you go and subscribe. You can even leave us a up to a 5-star rating. Drop us a comment on how much you enjoyed the podcast and the show, the episode in general. And we're going to pick his brain a little bit. Everybody's talking about Gonzaga and Baylor and how great they look, but I haven't really heard very many people say anything negative about the concerns that they have about either one of those teams. I'm going to pick Clark's brain on that one as well. So it should be fun to look forward to.
All right. And Steve Carney as well with me again. Follow him at Steve Carney. We're showing that up on the screen, CARNEY on social media. I plug again for Steve's website, which is the stpete9.com, stpete9.com website for the Tampa Bay Rays. There he is covering Kevin Kiermaier, one of the popular Rays players, the popular outfielder. He says he doesn't want to be anywhere else. We don't want him to be anywhere else, but the Rays might end up trading him because of salary. Don't do it, Tampa Bay Rays. Steve's covering it. He's writing about it. stpete9.com is the website. And Steve, you also have the podcast that they can find. I'm going to show it to the YouTube audience, very appropriately named Under the Orange Roof. Under the Orange Roof, which they turn orange, DeShaun, and for the audience on the YouTube roundtable whenever the Rays win a game. And it's been a lot of orange the last few years. So he's got the Under the Orange Roof podcast, wherever you find podcasts. Did I do well enough on the plug, Steve Carney?
You certainly did. Under the Orange Roof, available wherever you get your favorite podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio. You can follow the show on Twitter at UTOR Podcast, and of course, get it on stpete9.com. This week, we go deep into analytics with Jason Collette of fangraphs.com. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've got Peter King from CBS News, who's a huge baseball fan, and maybe my favorite comedian and a funny girl and a very lovely, lovely person as well. Jen Decker is going to join me here in the next couple of weeks as well. She's from the Tampa Bay area.
Under the Orange Roof is the podcast. Look for that. Tate's Take Hoops is DeShaun's, and Tate's Take is the podcast to find them. Boys, do well. Again, I love the insight from both of you. The hoops coming, DeShaun, in March. The baseball spring training here and regular season coming. Steve Carney in baseball. Steve and DeShaun, thank you for hanging with me on the Three Dog Thursday podcast, YouTube roundtable, gentlemen.
Thanks, DJ.
Thank you for having me.